You're listening to Mike and Scott read a poem. Mike, how many intros have we tried to do so far?
3.
And do you think this one is going to be...
No, this is the third.
This is the third, and do you think this is the one that we're going to keep?
Probably.
Did you really like the episode that we just recorded?
No.
No? Okay. Well, I hope you enjoyed it anyway, audience.
No, I liked it. I had a great time, and I think that the audience will too.
If they played a lot of River Raid. This is episode 17, sonnet number 35.
That'd be a weird thing if there's a sentence that just got harder to say the more times you said it. Not like a tongue twister, you know, when you say it faster.
Really? Because it sounds exactly like a tongue twister.
No. You can say it nice and slow, but every time you say it, it gets harder to say.
Well, toy boat, even if you take your time, is hard.
Yeah. Unique New York is a tough one, too.
Yeah, you take as much time as you want. You're still going to mess it up. Your brain just can't juggle those repetitive... It's a mistake. Like, every word needs to be mathematically far enough away from every other word that if they're said together, you will not get confused. Otherwise, I consider it a poorly constructed language. Peter Piper picked a pepper. It's too hard. No, actually, that one's not that hard. It's kind of rewarding too. Like, and Fuzzy Wuzzy was a bear. That one's easy. That's one to get your confidence going.
That's a warm-up drill.
That's the problem. When people go on to do speeches, they try to warm up their voice by saying, unique New York. Unique New York.
Yeah.
And they're there, and then their confidence is dropping because it's like, oh, shoot, that's hard.
I can't say it.
Oh, I can't do anything. Or if you just go, Buzzy Wuzzy was a bear, you're like, yeah, I'm ready. I want to wow this audience.
We got this. I don't know if they play it during the credits, but in Anchorman, there's some random things that Will was saying when he was supposed to be doing that, you know, like unique New York thing.
Right. Yes.
One of my favorite was he said the arsonist had oddly shaped feet or something like that.
And I can't think of any of them. I can think of 0 examples, but I know that they're funny.
Yeah.
Would you like to look up one as an example, or is that I always try to jump out with a trivia question if I can.
Yeah, let's look that up at the end.
All right. Anchorman warm-up lines.
That sounds like a good search term. You feel like you're a better search term, I don't know, thinker than when you first started using the internet?
That's a really good question. I feel like I got really good at it very quickly, and then I plateaued.
Ah, I see. Yeah, I felt like I was really good back in the day. And then I got... I guess I did plateau, but I feel like now I'm not as good as I used to be.
Okay. Now maybe it's just like sports. Like, you're really good at the computer when you're in your 20s, and then you peak when you're around 30, 31. And then by the time you're 37, it's like, yeah, I'm not that good with computers anymore.
We're going to be the first generation to test that whole thing out.
No, I think
You think one generation before us?
No, I agree. I agree. What I'm saying is I think that we'll be good with computers forever. I don't think it's something that will leave us.
Oh, no, but, technology will advance, and we won't be able to keep up with that technology.
You don't think so?
I don't think so, really. I seriously don't. Like, the next generation, they'll come up with, I don't know, all these algorithms and stuff for printing 3D prints, and we're not going to... It's going to be hard to learn that stuff.
Well, I'm one step ahead of them. I don't understand how printers work today, let alone 3D printers. Like, if you're asking me to build a printer, then you're right. I am not getting better at computers. But what I'm talking about is, you give me a tower computer, or you give me DOS. That's how old I am. You give me DOS. I learned how to do a lot of MS-DOS. All right, then you give me Windows 3.1, and I learned that. And then you gave me a laptop and the internet, and I figured that out. And then you turned it into a phone, and guess what? I figured that out. So if you turn it into glasses or contact lenses or an artificial skin, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah, but things have been progressively requiring less brain power to figure out.
Yeah.
And I think they do that on purpose because, like, if you look at a machine nowadays, you open up your computer, you turn it on, and there's Windows, and it all works perfectly, and everything's, kind of familiar.
Right.
And it does most of the work for you. But back in the day, when Windows came out, like, you had to figure out how to install it in some cases. Like,
that was always fun.
And you had to figure out what defragging was, all these concepts and stuff.
Defragging, that was fun. Even though I didn't completely understand it, I was mainly going off the picture that they were showing me, as it would
Which is a great icon.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you see that wall, how there's holes in that wall? Well, this makes all the bricks kind of stick together in a logical pattern. That's what defragging is. And then it's like, okay, now what exactly is happening on the hard drive? That thing, that picture over there.
Those bricks, those colorful bricks moving
That's
around.
what defragging is. I don't know, it feels so good in your heart after you defragged your computer. Like,
it did. It really did. You felt clean. Like your computer just took a bath.
I said defragged. That sounds almost like offensive. It's defragmented.
No, you can use defragged.
It's because the command was defrag, right?
Yeah, it's just a shortened version, but you're right. The whole term is defragment.
What do you think most people would say? Do you think I'm being a tool for calling it a defrag, or is it okay to not call it defragment?
No. You're using common nomenclature.
Okay, common nomenclature. All right.
To defrag something, people know kind of what that means. But my main point was that back then you had to learn how to use that machine. You had to learn everything about it because it didn't do anything for you. Nowadays, stuff just kind of works, right? And I feel like that's making me dumber in terms of understanding technology and how things work. Like VoIP. I don't know exactly how VoIP works. I know how to use the programs that take advantage of it, but back in the day, I knew exactly how... I would have known how it works.
Okay, because you're smarter than I am because I could not build you an Atari. I couldn't even come close. I don't even think I'd be able to mold plastic or even a block of wood to look like an Atari. If I just wanted to give you an Atari image, I couldn't even do that. I couldn't draw you a picture of an Atari.
Oh, but fun fact, you still own your Atari, right?
If you want to see somebody play River Raid, then just get me an old-fashioned TV to hook up my Atari to, and then I'll show you somebody who's really good at River Raid.
I will raid that river like it's never been raided before.
Well, River Raid 2, that was almost never rated before because that game was not good. That's when I started learning about disappointing sequels, was River Raid 2.
That's what it was.
I was like, oh, this is a terrible feeling. It was just such a clean game. You held the stick back and you pressed the button, and that was like your big bomb, your big gun, I think. And now I need to look this up because maybe I could just be making this up. And then
we'll look it up. That'll be one of our trivia things.
Just River Raid. Even if I edit out this whole chunk of time, we're still going to look up a little bit about the video game River Raid on Atari. It was an awesome game. So Sonnet 34. So you were just making a point about how you're getting dumber because computers are getting easier to use.
Yeah. It's kind of like I used to be able to memorize phone numbers like nothing, and now I can't remember a phone number if I stare at it for 5 minutes.
Well, it's not important for your brain to know that anymore. So if you don't
read
that, but you know what's a good thing to do? Exercise your brain a little bit, and that's what we do every single week here on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. When we read a poem that we've never read before, and instantly analyze it for you, the audience, and then see if we were right or wrong.
And we are by no means experts of any sort.
We're the best people who do this podcast.
We're experts at doing this, and that's about it.
If maybe not everything needs to have an expert. All right, Sonnet 35.
Sonnet 35. No more be grieved at that which thou hast done. Roses have thorns and silver fountains mud. Clouds and eclipses stain both moon and sun, and loathsome canker lives in sweetest bud. All men make faults, and even I in this, authorizing thy trespass with prayer. Myself corrupting, salving thy amiss, executing thy sins more than thy sins are. For to thy sensual fault I bring incense. Thy adverse party is thy advocate. And thou gainst to myself a lawful plea commence. Such civil war is in my love and hate, that I an accessory needs must be to that sweet thief which sourly robs from me.
Speaking of River Raid 2, I think
Look,
this
awesome segues.
I think this sonnet is the sequel to last week's sonnet.
Okay.
When
Alrighty.
the fair youth did something to hurt Shakespeare, and it was 2 weeks in a row. This is 3 weeks in a row. This is the third one.
So he's really somebody screwed up.
He is not letting it go. 3 sonnets in a row. I hope after this sonnet, Shakespeare's friends were like, "Hey man, 3 sonnets in a row? You got to move on to something else. You're just holding on to this feeling too long."
And it took him months to write each one. So do you have any initial feelings or sensations about this sonnet?
It seemed at first that he was forgiving the fair youth for doing something bad, because even silver fountains have mud, and roses have thorns. Every rose has its thorn.
Mm-hmm.
Here it is. And all men make faults, so, it's these types of things happen.
It is what it is.
Yeah, but I don't really know how he ends it. I don't know what his feeling is at the end.
One thing that I remember from the end, just in the couplet, he says that basically he feels like he himself is an accessory to some sort of robbery of his soul or like of love or something like that. But basically, I think in the end he might be not implicating himself as the criminal, but saying that he's kind of an enabler to something. So maybe he's complaining about all these bad things that are happening to him, but in the end he's like, but I guess I do these things to myself, or like help to do these things to myself.
All right.
But we'll see. That's just... I could be way off.
Grasping at straws. Perhaps. But it seemed well thought out to me. Or good off the top of the head, which is the opposite of well thought out, but well put. So we'll see. No more be grieved at that which thou hast done. That I read as, you don't have to feel bad anymore. You don't have to feel bad anymore about what you did. Roses have thorns, and silver fountains mud. Clouds and eclipses stain both moon and sun. Clouds can cover up the sun.
Yeah, so people have their off days, kind of, right?
Yeah. Your bravery was hiding. Remember that from last week?
Oh, yeah.
Your bravery. And loathsome canker lives in sweetest bud. I don't exactly know what a canker is.
It seems like it's the same exact idea, though, is that bad things... Good things have bad things associated with them, too.
Right. But it will be exciting to hear what exactly that means.
Yeah.
Because I picture it being... Are there cankers that can grow in flowers that make it bad?
Yeah, the only thing I've never heard of canker in any other sense other than canker sore.
That's it. That's your number one canker right there.
Yeah.
Our best-selling canker, I run the canker shipping department, and pretty much we only ship to canker sore. All right. All men make faults, and even I in this, authorizing thy trespasses with compare. At first it seemed like he was saying, I make faults also.
Mm-hmm.
So that makes your trespass, whatever bad thing you did, it's authorized. Because I've done bad things, bad. You get to do a bad thing too, because we're human.
Yeah, yeah.
Myself corrupting, salving thy amiss.
Salving's like healing, right?
I'll accept that. How certain are you?
I'm pretty sure, because when you have a wound, I think you put salve on it.
Put a little salve on it. That's what we're doing to our understanding of this poem. We're putting a little salve on it.
We're healing our understanding.
Yeah. excusing thy sins more than thy sins are. Maybe now it's coming up to what you were saying. Maybe I'm an enabler. Excusing thy sins more than thy sins are. So, is it because my sins are even worse than yours?
Oh, maybe. That's a good point. Because he's comparing himself as a bad person, quote unquote, to his lover as a bad person. And so maybe he's excusing a lot more than needs to be. Or maybe he's just saying you can do a lot worse because I'll excuse it.
I'll excuse even more. This is how much I'm willing to put up with, and you're at only about 60% of it right now.
Although you never want to tell somebody where they're at.
No, I like to give a running tally. I give them like their statement. You have about 33% left in your savings account of my good feelings towards you.
You're up 3 points over last month this time.
Yeah, remember you were down to 30, so you're up to 33. So overall, your portfolio is looking okay.
Yeah. But compared to last year, you're far down.
You were in the high 40s last year. What happened? Struggling to hold on to 30 minimum. Happy when you're up to 33. This is no way to live. You got to get yourself solidly in the 40s. Those people are living good. All right.
You're like a roller coaster here. Excusing thy sins more than thy sins are, for to thy sensual fault I bring incense.
Thy adverse party is thy advocate.
Thy adverse party is thy advocate. Your enemy is your friend.
So I'm your enemy in this case. So, because I'm the one that's complaining about you, but I'm the one that's also giving you an out because I'm like, well, I was your age once too. And against myself, a lawful plea commence. And so now I'm fighting for your side. What am I doing? I'm like your attorney against me. And this is my plea. Such civil war is in my love and hate that I an accessory needs must be to that sweet thief which sourly robs from me. I didn't get that. Here's also something new. The last line of the third quatrain goes right into the couplet at the end with no punctuation. It's like part of the same sentence. I feel like a lot of times the couplet was its own thing.
No, yeah, you're right. It does go into it.
Because love and hate rhymes with advocate. For to thy sensual fault I bring incense. So whatever, I don't know, you were off with another person in a sensual way. For that fault that you did, I, who am supposed to be against you in this fight, can now argue for you and make a plea against myself. And because I'm fighting both sides, it's because I love you and hate myself, or just all my love and hate. Such civil war is in my love and hate that I, an accessory, needs must be to that sweet thief which sourly robs from me. So yeah, I'm an accessory to you, even though you're robbing from me. It's exactly what you said.
Nice. Yeah, I'm seeing that a little bit more clearly now. I think that when he says, thy adverse party is thy advocate, yeah, he's saying that the person that you're going against is actually rooting for you, referring to himself. So I'm rooting for you. So the theme that I feel from the second half of this is that, and from the first, I guess, from the whole thing, that he's saying, I've been worse than you were to me. So while I'm really upset at how you treated, or something you did to me, I can't help but see myself in you, kind of like, not myself in you, but I can't help but forgive you because I was once worse than you.
That's exactly what it means, and now this really is a beautiful storyline in these sonnets. In the beginning, he was saying, you are hiding your true self, I hate you, you're ruining everything. And then a little later, he was like, you're obviously apologetic, but that does nothing for me. But now all of a sudden you're crying, and that makes me feel bad.
Yeah, that was the end of last week, right? Of Sonnet 34.
And then it just picked up right where it left off, and now it's, hey man, seriously, you don't have to feel bad. Like, I've been there. I've done that kind of thing.
Yeah, and while I'm super upset right now because of what you did.
Yeah, but I have no choice but to play your attorney against me. And I am a very good attorney, and I am very bad on the witness stand. And I'm going to put myself up on that stand, and I'm going to cross-examine myself all night. And I'm like, yes, but when you said you were at that place at 8 o'clock, where were you really? Well, I wasn't at that place. Ooh. And then I taunt myself.
You're doing it all at the same time.
This is my new obsession. Remember last week when I decided that I was going to kick Mike off the show, and then I was going to do a Mike imitation for the rest of the show?
Oh, yeah.
Which is still going on. I never said that I stopped doing that.
Yeah, so far my Mike impression is amazing.
Yeah. So now this week, Shakespeare is saying, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to act out this little courtroom drama, and I'm going to play myself, and I'm also going to play your defender, and you're going to win. I've got the odds on you. Because I'm way worse than you are. You are a beautiful, fair youth. All right, we nailed it. We nailed that one. And you actually got it right off the bat, and I didn't even see it.
Oh, no, yeah, that's just the feeling I got from the quatrain, or from the couplet at the end.
Again, very strange to me that it goes right into that couplet. Kind of exciting.
Yeah, you're right. I never really noticed that until just now.
I noticed sonnet form. That's what I do. I'm here to notice sonnet form and to try to dig through the words. But the construction, the numerical value of each line, that I got.
So, real quick, before we go and look into some definitions here, or other interpretations, let's take a look back. And do you see any line in here that you think is kind of like, just beautifully written and thought out?
Well, I'm wondering if roses have thorns is the beginning of that saying. Every rose has its thorn.
Oh, yeah, but you're saying, like, what if this was the first reference to roses having thorns?
Yeah, sometimes there's famous lines. Oh, this is a good trivia question. Sometimes there are famous lines that are wrong the way people say them. And I think one of them is the end of Sunset Boulevard. I think people say, I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeMille. But I think it's actually like a differently constructed sentence, like, Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up. Something like that. It's slightly different.
Oh, I think there's a famous one in Star Wars where people think he says, Luke, I am your father. But he doesn't say that.
Yeah, I buy that.
He says something else. I'll have to look it up.
All right, so we could look up, I'm sure there's a whole book of it. So, misquoted famous movie lines?
Yeah. I just broke
All
my
right.
head.
But first we have to look up to see if we were right about Sonnet 35. What metaphor will you be using to grade us this week?
I'll be grading us on... what scale?
So it could be, we're trying to get a bucket of water from the bottom of the well. So we put our bucket down, and we've never done this before. And it's like, what do? You just dunk it into the water, and like, okay. And so we're trying to pull it up, but we're not pulling the rope at a good speed, and it's going to tip all the water out of the bucket if we don't pull it up at the correct speed. Do we get the bucket of water up? That's the scale that we'll be grading our sonnet on.
The whole time I was like, this is so obscure. What's he talking about? And I had faith that you'd bring it back together in the end. And the whole metaphor just continued on without getting more clear.
I don't know. That's what I envisioned. Are we going to get that water?
Without spilling a single drop.
It's too bad that in this beautiful grading metaphor, really who we are is Jack and Jill. That's all.
No.
So, do we fall down and break our crown, or do we get the pail of water?
Let's see.
On Mike and Scott, read a poem.
Oh, man. Did you just have that vision in your head?
It was because last week he said we were going to hit a home run. Is it going to be fair or foul? And I was like, okay, well, all we have to do is come up with another activity to do. And I can't tell you why, but I pictured that.
No, I'm impressed. I'm impressed at your imagination. My imagination is not as quick as it used to be.
Again, here's one of the things that you're really good at personally. You're good at giving the best compliments, because who wouldn't want to hear, I'm impressed with your imagination? All right, Mike. So the bucket's coming up the well. How much water's left inside?
Yeah, you're pulling that rope. It's coming up. It's coming up. Once we finally see it to the top, it's pretty full.
Yeah! Is that how people respond when they get a full bucket of water?
Yeah, they'll run around, they'll throw the bucket in the air and run around in excitement.
I wonder if it really is hard to use a well. Or if it's just, like you said with computers, it just works so easily, you don't even get better at using a wells. Because it's a skill you don't need. Because wells are just perfect.
You'd hear more about the town weller.
You want some water? I know the weller.
He's amazing.
Anytime you want. Oh, that's why our town thrives. We have the best weller in 4 counties.
That could be a guy who digs the well, though. And that would make sense if you had a really good weller.
His wells are very correctly shaped. All right. So you're saying that it's pretty full.
Yeah, I think we did a pretty good job deciphering this one. It was a little shady at first, but this one didn't seem too difficult to kind of pick apart. We did mess up on a couple things, right?
Well, one interesting thing that I found out now is, it's funny, we usually find out about these episodes that we're in the middle of them somehow. So I just found out we're in another arc of sonnets that go from Sonnet 33 all the way to Sonnet 42, in which Shakespeare and the fair youth have a quarrel.
And well, we did kind of realize that there's a common theme between the last three so far.
Right, so we called that it was a trilogy. We just didn't, how could we know how long this episode would continue? So this is fun that we're going to go numerically, because I don't want to skip around right now. I want to find out how this ends. But there was foreshadowing.
Yeah.
This is the first time, this is a Mike and Scott change, because we go into these sonnets
blind.
Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen. Sometimes we know general, like during the procreation sonnets, we knew that it was going to have something to do with procreation. But now we know that sonnets 40 through 42, which are coming up in about 5 weeks, are about the fair youth stealing a lover away from Shakespeare. That's a huge
deep
plot twist. So sonnets through 40 through 42, talking about how the fair youth may have stolen a lover from Shakespeare. This is the offense that Shakespeare is talking about. So we don't specifically know what it is yet, but some people say that it's actually what's going to happen in 40 through 42 that he's upset about now.
Don't they mention that it's not super clear if this whole thing is linked to the fair youth sleeping with his mistress?
Well, the term is stealing a lover away.
Stealing the poet's mistress.
But it does say in here that it's a sensual fault or a sensual sin or something like that.
Yeah.
But yes, one of maybe it was Shakespeare's Dash sonnets said, there's not enough information to know exactly what the sin is. Mm-hmm. So we just have to use our imagination. So we don't know what happened. We'll never know.
Something bad happened.
One thing I have to fix is I said for the line, such civil war is in my love and hate. So I thought that it was loving you and hating myself. Really, it's loving you and hating you. It's both you. So,
at the same time.
Yep, I love you and I hate you. Kind of immature Shakespeare. But I do like that this story develops over over time. Remember, at first I was like, Shakespeare, you're still on this? But no, now I'm excited because it's actually, the plot is turning. This is not something that I expected going into Mike and Scott Read a Poem, that these stories would actually get me hooked in. But, you know, I gotta say, I'm a little hooked.
Yeah, there's definitely a plot line across all of the sonnets together, which is really cool.
So
I never realized that, actually, you know, until we started doing this. I knew that, okay, Shakespeare had a ton of sonnets, but I didn't know they were related in any way. One thing that I had to kind of correct on this one was, so the line where he says, myself corrupting, salving thy amiss, excusing thy sins more than thy sins are. That line right there, he's talking about that he is making himself worse because he's forgiving the sins of his lover or the beloved.
Yes, that's the sin. Not that he was guilty of worse sins. That's what we were saying, so we were wrong about that. He's saying, like, look, I've done much worse things. No, what he's saying is, I'm doing something terrible now because I am forgiving you. I should not be forgiving you. It's like the fair youth called on the phone and they talked for a minute, and then all of a sudden he just starts forgiving him on the phone. He's like, no, I should not be doing this. I should never have answered this phone call.
That's exactly it.
Yeah, you started to cry and I caved.
It's weird. That's a big part that we kind of thought that we were pretty correct on, but really it doesn't affect the overall interpretation of the poem itself.
We got the emotion, we fumbled the specific content. We tripped on it.
Yeah, so rather than saying, just as a review, rather than I've done worse things so I forgive you for this stuff, it is I'm doing a worse thing right now by forgiving you for these things. Yeah. So, yeah. I guess it does sort of change his historical character in my mind, though.
Oh, it's a big difference.
Yeah.
I don't feel that bad about it because I hold myself to a very low standard. So that's the lesson this week from Sonnet 35 on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. Coming up next, answers to trivia questions such as, what are some of the funny Anchorman warm-up lines? What a great thing to do on a podcast, just to say, hey, we're going to read you these funny things that Will Ferrell said, and that'll make our podcast funny by just reading these lines. Wow, that's terrific. All right, next we're going to tell you a little bit about what were we going to say about River Raid. Oh, if I was describing the controls correctly.
Yeah. And lastly, I'm going to look up and see if there's any other famous movie lines that are often misquoted.
But I would like to make a correction to River Raid now that I've had time to think about it a little bit more.
Okay.
There is some game where you hold back the button and hold back the stick and press the button, and that makes a bigger gun. No, the thing about River Raid is when you're low on fuel, you have to drive over a fuel tank. And when you pull the stick back, your plane starts to fly really slowly. So it is over the fuel tank longer, and then you could fill up your tank. So that's what pulling the stick back did.
Hey, that's the same concept in F-Zero, the game on SNES.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, because if your power is pretty low, you start getting that really annoying alarm, and then if you pull over into the little yellow slashed or rainbow kind of colored thing, then a spaceship comes over and starts replenishing your energy.
Yeah, that's right. And there was also arrows on the ground that made you go super fast.
Yeah.
Which is what's in
Wow, so now. River Run was possibly...
River Raid, yeah.
River Raid is possibly the great-great-grandfather of F-Zero.
Yeah, so maybe we'll have facts about River Raid when we come back, or maybe I'll just end it there by saying, hey, I was wrong about the gun thing. But, we'll look it up, and maybe we'll tell you the answer, or maybe we won't. All right, and as you said, misquoted movie lines. So that, and maybe just a smidge more on Mike and Scott Read a Poem.
So the misquoted line is, me Tarzan, you Jane.
Yeah.
And on this website, totalfilm.com, they write out the actual script of it, like from the film. And Jane, pointing to herself. Jane, Tarzan, He points at her. Jane. Jane. And you? She points at him. You? Tarzan. Stabbing himself proudly in the chest. Tarzan. Tarzan.
Well, we're back on Mike and Scott Read a Poem, and that is a misquoted movie line. There is no you, Jane, me, Tarzan.
Yep.
Do you have another one?
Another misquote. I looked up a few. So the one that we referenced earlier, Luke, I am your father. The actual line is, no, I am your father. Mm-hmm. Which is a huge difference that, you don't really notice. But
very nice.
Beam me up, Scotty. I guess that was never uttered in film.
Really?
The closest line is, Scotty, beam us up.
All right. Did you see the one that was Mr. DeMille, I'm ready for my close-up?
What's the name of that movie?
Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah, I did see that one.
What is it?
Hold on, let me look it up real fast. Where was that?
There's another one, misquoted movie line. Rocky never says Adrian. Her name is actually Adriana.
Oh, really?
No.
Oh, damn.
I was pretending like this whole time. We think he goes, Adrian, when really he's going, Adriana.
That would be a huge one.
Did you know that it's actually Hand Solo with a D? Hand Solo? And it's because he was supposed to be the one with only one hand, so he's Hand Solo, one hand. But then actually they made a mistake and they accidentally cut Luke's hand off instead. And it made
I was going to correct
sense.
you there for a second, but I thought, oh, maybe he's still doing...
No, yes, I was still doing it. I was coming up with a justification for why there would be a character called Han Solo, and it seems like a very obvious one because Luke loses his hand in the second movie, so I felt like I had just stumbled in to an awesome joke, and then I didn't know what to do with it. I just stumbled into that.
Oh, no, you did. You handled it really well.
I handled it just like Han Solo likes to handle things. And he was only supposed to have one hand. That's why he's so effective in the movies. He has the abilities of a man with one hand, like those kind of specialized abilities, but he also in both hands.
The name Han Solo was just a nickname people gave to him. Oh, look, it's old Han Solo.
Because he's ambidextrous. He could do things with either hand completely solo. His real last name is Berkowitz.
Completely solo.
His name is actually Kevin Berkowitz, but his nickname is Hand Solo.
Oh man!
All right, so
yeah, you should reshoot the whole just dub over anytime they reference Han Solo and say Berkowitz. Oh, Berkowitz.
There's a couple of times where people just shout out Han, and they just have Berkowitz.
All right, so Sunset Boulevard. I'm ready for my close-up, Mr. DeVille, and the actual movie quote is, "All right, Mr. DeVille, I'm ready for my close-up."
Is it Mr. DeMille?
Oh, DeMille, you're right. Yeah.
Okay.
It says Mr. DeMille even on the top one.
I'm ready for my close-up, Cruella DeVille, who became. After she got over her whole puppy craze, she was like, "Whoa, I really need to focus on things that matter. I need to get back to my film career." People don't know that's how Cruella DeVille got so rich. She was a very sought-after film director, a great female film director in the 1930s.
She kind of has the look of one.
She looks like she can see things very well from different angles. Like she could see what's going on everywhere.
One of the top misquoted movie lines is, "Houston, we have a problem." The actual quote is, "Houston, we've had a problem."
Okay. What is on the movie poster, though?
Oh, is that quote on the movie
I'm
poster?
asking you. Look, I'm asking you right now. No. This is going to be next week's trivia question.
Okay.
Did we say yet? Oh my goodness, I don't know if we recorded it. Saying
No, we didn't talk about Fats Domino.
Oh, Fats Domino. I'm sorry, that's supposed to go at the beginning of the show. I'm still new to this show. All right? Because I am actually, this whole time, I've been Mike doing a Scott imitation, and then also doing a Scott doing a Mike imitation. I know I could have just used my own voice for Mike, but I felt at this point the show's gotten too deep. So I had to become Mike playing Scott, and when Mike speaks, I had to be Scott playing Mike, which is being played by Mike. All right. I don't know if I said that right. Anyway, that's how deep the show is now. So next week, what did we say we're going to look up?
We're going to look up if the line "Houston, we've had a problem" appears on the movie poster.
Apollo 13 poster.
Yes.
All right. Nobody has to know that I misspelled the word Apollo on my notepad here. I don't have to tell anybody how I did it.
Apollo?
You'll never... No, it's not Apollo. You'll never know, though. Anyway, Anchorman warm-up lines. The one that made me laugh the most, and I'll only do one, is... I would like an Arnold Palmer at the omelet parlor. That I really liked that one. River Raid. I didn't look too deeply into the gameplay, so I'll let it stand at what I was talking about earlier. But there were some innovative things about River Raid, and I won't go into them. But we'll just say that the game moved the needle a little bit on artificial intelligence, I think, or maybe
it pushed gaming just defeated one huge hurdle, or jumped over one huge hurdle, and that was the need to store a lot of information, eliminating that need, and using mathematical algorithms to save space.
So that it's going to solve the problem the exact same way each time, which creates the background, but you don't actually have to save the background. You just have to tell it, do this equation.
That's really
do
cool.
This program. Not this.
There's got to be a documentary about that somewhere.
The problem is we don't have that problem anymore because now we have storage.
That's true, yeah, but I'm sure they're still doing a lot. I bet you the engines that they're using probably use this concept in order to present a layer of graphics on the screen.
All right, and River Raid was designed by Carol Shaw. So that's River Raid, Anchorman warm-up lines, and misquoted movie lines. Well, we're going to find out about Apollo 13 next week. The poster of it.
And we'll also find out who shot first, Guido, or Kevin Berkowitz.
I don't know. I don't really have an ending. Should we just end it?
I think we're good right now, yeah.
I caught you. You were just going to end the show without forcing us to do an ending. I caught you.
I thought the ending was good enough.
You know what? I let you do that. It's actually my fault. I was going to let you end the show because I felt like I didn't have anything. So you know what? You don't have to feel bad. This is... I really have to take a stance against myself right now. And I hate to do it because I'm still mad at you for even suggesting that we should end the show without a good ending. But, I love you because, in a way you would have just let the show not have an ending. And you're a much better person than me. That's all I want to say. And that's why I would like to invite you back on the show. I'm no longer going to do an imitation of you. So the next voice you hear is going to be Mike. But that's coming up next week on Mike and Scott Read a Poem. Yeah, well, that you could just do 35 minus 17.
Right? Or you could do it.
We'll do it next week on Mike and Scott Read a Poem.